Last week on March 14th, the Green Bay Packers 2025 NFL schedule came out, and I got to admit, this is a really, really tough schedule. And in my honest opinion, this schedule is a lot harder than it was last year. This is going to come down to consistency of health and consistency of being exceptional on all three phases of the football: offense, defense, special teams. Everything really needs to click for this to be a very successful season with the schedule. And let's break down each and every week on this 2025 schedule for the Green Bay Packers. Week 1, finally a home game in Week 1 against the Detroit Lions. The last 4 meetings, the Green Bay Packers are 1-3 against the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions did lose their offensive coordinator Ben Johnson to be a head coach for the Chicago Bears, and lost defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn to be a head coach for the New York Jets. I believe that the Lions' best chance at a Super Bowl was last year. I do not think they'll get worse this season. When you have Dan Campbell, who is an exceptional leader for this group, they will have Aiden Hutchinson back. I still think this will be a very competitive team this upcoming season, and this is also going to be a team that's trying to be competitive to be NFC North divisional leaders. But overall, there is no excuse for this Green Bay Packers to not at least split with the Detroit Lions. This Packers team cannot get swept like they did last year. No Ben Johnson, no Aaron Glenn. I understand that Dan Campbell is a great leader, and I understand the Lions are always going to be a tough team, but the Green Bay Packers have to at least split with the Detroit Lions this upcoming season. So me personally, at the minimum, you got to go 1-1. 2-0 undefeated against the Lions, that would be amazing. At the minimum, 1-1. You cannot go back-to-back seasons getting swept by the Detroit Lions. On top of that, you have a short week. Thursday Night Football against the Washington Commanders. This Commanders team got really hot during the playoffs. Rookie of the Year, Jane Daniels at quarterback. The Packers seem to have struggles against dual threat quarterbacks, and as long as they're able to contain Jane Daniels in the pocket, apply some pressure, shut down the offense, and at least score some points on this defense, the Packers do have a realistic chance to go 2-0 if things click very well the first 2 weeks. But at the minimum, it is a very tough first 2 games of the season. You gotta go at least 1-1 or 2-0. Starting off 0-2, I understand they can bounce back in week 3 and get that W against the Cleveland Browns, but at least go 1-1 the first 2 games. Week 3, Cleveland Browns, another poverty type franchise. I do see us getting that W against the Cleveland Browns. Week 4, we are at Dallas. Don't think we have lost a game in the new AT&T Stadium. This is going to be a very tough matchup. I know the Dallas Cowboys weren't good last year, but they can get a healthy Dak Prescott, who kind of likes to throw the ball out the gym. If he's healthy throughout the season, he does put up MVP-like numbers during the season. They did trade for George Pickens, so now have to worry about CeeDee Lamb on one side, Pickens on the other side. They also drafted some of our draft crush. They're going to have Donovan Ezra-Rocco on the opposite end of Micah Parsons. They drafted Siobhan Revel to help out that secondary position. This is going to be a very close, high-scoring game for what I see. It could either be a high-scoring game or a very gritty, low-scoring game, but I do see the Green Bay Packers getting a W at AT&T Stadium. That is Lambeau South for us. So overall, at the minimum, got to go 2-2 up into the bye week. Very early bye week, week 5. I feel iffy about that because after week 5, you got to stay healthy, you got to gain momentum, and pretty much step on every team's throat after week 5 and try to be healthy to your best ability with an early week. But overall, at the minimum, this Green Bay Packers team should go at least 2-2. 3-1 would be great. Undefeated will be amazing. At the minimum, 2-2. You don't want to go into the bye week in week 5, 1-3 or 0-4. So overall, I think at minimum with this schedule and with this team, at minimum 2-2 up into the week 5 bye. After the bye, you had the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals defense was atrocious last year, but when you have a healthy Joe Burrow in the pocket, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, this Bengals team is really capable of putting up points against you. So regardless of how this Bengals defense was last year, if the Packers can score 30 points, the Bengals can actually score 30 points. So as long as Burrow's there, this is going to be a tough game. I would love a W, and I can see a W against the Bengals. So overall, I can see a nice win over the Bengals at home at week 6. Arizona Cardinals, we are at Arizona. Early in the season, the Arizona Cardinals play very scrappy. Around November, December, they kind of go downhill a little bit. I'm not a buyer into Kyle Murray. I think this will probably be his last year as a Cardinals quarterback, but I do like a W at Arizona. I I do see a nice W over Arizona. Week 8, prime time at Pittsburgh. Does Aaron Rodgers sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers? If so, you're going to have probably game of the year. Aaron Rodgers versus the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love versus mentor. This might be one of the top games of the year if Rodgers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. As of right now, the Steelers have Will Howard and Mason Rudolph as potential starting quarterbacks for the season. I don't know if we're going to see Mason Rudolph or Will Howard at week 8, depending on how the buzz is for Aaron Rodgers. But this is a potential Aaron Rodgers revenge game versus the Green Bay Packers. So this would be a very tough team. If the Pittsburgh Steelers front 7 on defense is healthy, this could be a very tough game. Front 7 healthy defense for the Steelers is going to be very tough. It's up in the air of who their quarterback situation is. I know they have Metcalf, and there's a lot of rumors about Romeo Doubs getting traded there. We don't know if that's official or not. I mean, it's not official, but there's a lot of buzz about Doubs getting traded to the Steelers. But this can be a very tough game if Rodgers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if Rodgers signs, this could be a very potential toss-up game. Two iconic franchises go toe-to-toe on primetime, Rodgers versus Love. This can go either way. Week 9 versus the Carolina Panthers. If there is one sleeper team that I can see making a lot of noise this upcoming season, it is the Carolina Panthers. They had a lot of momentum after Bryce Young got benched. They almost beat the Eagles. They almost beat the Chiefs. And if they actually had a competent defense last year, they're probably potentially winning a lot more games last year. But the Panthers are going to be a very scrappy team. They're actually going to be my surprise team in this upcoming season. I know they got the number 1 wide receiver in the first round. They got a quality edge in Nick Scorton. There's going to be a very scrappy, tough Panthers team if they bring that momentum from the back half of the season last year up until this season. This can be a very scrappy game. I would not be surprised if the Packers could potentially lose to the Panthers. Usually when us Packers play against potential inferior teams, we kind of walk into the game very nonchalantly, and a potential loss can happen. But I think the Panthers will be a very scrappy team. I do think the Panthers can make a lot of noise, and I think the Panthers can really potentially push for a playoff spot this upcoming season. They're my sticky team this year. I think this will be a very gritty game that could probably come down to the wire. Following on that, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, Week 10. You need to be healthy. You need to be mentally prepared, physically prepared to go against the Philadelphia Eagles at home on Monday Night Primetime. We need to at least get this W against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be a very tough game. This is also a toss-up 50-50. Unfortunately, we couldn't take them down in the playoffs, especially when there's injuries to Watson. Dobbs went down, Reed went down, the offensive line started to crack down a little bit. But if we can go to this game fully healthy, mentally prepared, and Matt LaFleur can rally the troops, I think we could really take down the Philadelphia Eagles. This will be a very tough game on primetime, 50-50 toss-up game here. Week 11 against the New York Giants. Packers are 0-2 in the past 2 games against the New York Giants. We lost to them in London in 2022, and then we lost to them in that Tommy DeVito primetime game, which really hurts my soul from that loss. But at some point, the Packers really need to kind of step on their throats and get that W against the New York Giants. I understand the past 2 times we had Joe Barry as the offensive coordinator. This time will be different. I know we have Jeff Hafley as defensive coordinator, and obviously the Packers are the much more superior team than the New York Giants, but we really need to at least get that W, because honestly, I would love to get a win over the New York Giants. A loss would not surprise me. It would not surprise me. Something about the Giants, they just find ways to win against us. I don't know if that's just a lack of preparation of us going against the New York Giants the past few seasons. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like we do not play to the best of our ability the past few times we play against the New York Giants, and this could be one of a look-ahead game, especially when you have a divisional game the following week against the Minnesota Vikings. For some reason, I can see the Packers just taking the Giants team lightly, somehow get a loss because we're just too busy thinking about the Vikings the following week. But I would love a win against the Giants. A loss would not surprise me against the Giants. I'll be very transparent with you, especially us going 0-2 the past few times. Week 12 against the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold's not there. This is now the J.J. McCarthy show. In my honest opinion, I don't know if J.J. McCarthy will play to the potential of Sam Darnold last year. We don't know what that's going to look like, but again, at the minimum, we got to go 1-1 against the Minnesota Vikings. You cannot get swept against the Detroit Lions, and you cannot get swept against the Minnesota Vikings in back-to-back seasons. That is not good. That is not a good look, and that could potentially derail our season really quickly if we're getting swept by the Lions and the Vikings in a very tough schedule. Minimum, got to split with the Minnesota Vikings. After that, you have the Detroit Lions. So back-to-back divisional games. going to be very tough between the Vikings and the Detroit Lions. And whether we win week 1 or lose week 1, we need to at least split with the Lions. We cannot get swept again. I know it sounds like a broken record saying that, but this is the season where we have to at least go 2-0 or 1-1 against the Detroit Lions. Week 14, Chicago Bears. We really need to sweep them. No ifs or ands or buts. We prevented us getting swept by the Bears off a fingertip blocking a field goal. You're looking at potential swept by the Bears last year. Ben Johnson is the head coach. There's a little bit of beef between Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur. We got to at least sweep the Bears this season. They made a lot of moves this offseason. They built the trenches, and as everyone's expecting a year or two breakout, especially with Ben Johnson as the head coach, and kind of get Caleb Williams up to par. But overall, at least sweep the Bears. I don't want to go 1-1. I don't want to get swept by the Bears. Sweep the Bears this season. But we cannot let the Bears think that they're a team that can split with us every single year. Let's go ahead and sweep the Bears in this season. Week 15, very, very tough game against the Denver Broncos. You're going to have that year 2 breakout for Bo Nix. If this Broncos team can have a running game, this can be a very sneaky team in the AFC. The Broncos did not have a running game last year, so a lot of it fell on Bo Nix's shoulder as a rookie. Did a great job as a rookie. If they can get a running game going to help out Bo Nix, and on top of having a healthy defense, this is going to be a very tough game, especially at Denver. Very tough game. This is another toss-up game that I see here. Week 16, let's sweep the Bears. Let's not give the Bears any type of hope that they're going to come back for the Packers. Sweep the Bears. Week 17 versus the Baltimore Ravens. Very tough game. I believe the past few times we played the Ravens, I believe Lamar Jackson was hurt. But if week 17 and Lamar Jackson's putting up MVP numbers and he's also an MVP candidate around this time, this can be a very tough team. The Ravens are always a playoff team. They always make noise every single year. Very solid defense. I know last year was a bit weird, but after that bye last year, that defense really stepped up. Lamar Jackson is always going to be a struggle to try to contain the pocket and prevent him from not having MVP-like games. Another tough game, and Week 18, finishing the season against the Minnesota Vikings. Got to at least split with the Vikings. But overall, this is a very, very tough schedule. This season is going to come down to a lot of things. Consistency of health. For some odd reason, we either suffer through injuries with star players, or towards the back end of the season or in the playoffs, some type of injuries have happened. We need to be consistent with health, and especially with a week 5 bye. Health is going to be really key in a tough schedule and an early bye. We need to be consistent with health. Consistency of execution on all 3 phases: offense, defense, and special team. That has been very inconsistent the past few years. Whether the offense is hot, the defense isn't, or the offense is hot, defense is hot, and the special team isn't. There needs to be more consistency in all 3 phases of the football game, especially on a very tough schedule. You got to click and close on all aspects of the game to at least go through this gauntlet type of a schedule. Receivers catching the ball. We weren't able to move the ball in key situations with receivers dropping the ball. And if we are having a fully healthy Jordan Love was hurt most of the year last year. Healthy Jordan Love and receivers catching the ball, there is no excuse for Jordan Love to not at least put himself in MVP conversation. Healthy Jordan Love and receivers catching the ball, Love has to play at a top 5. Love has got to be top 5 with that type of circumstances, right? Healthy Love, receivers catch the ball, we got to see top 5 Love here. And mental and physical preparation. There were big games last season where I just didn't feel like Matt LaFleur had our troops ready to go in big games. That's going to be key here. You have the Lions twice, the Vikings twice. We have primetime Pittsburgh Steelers, Philadelphia Eagles, Denver Broncos, Baltimore Ravens. Matt LaFleur really, really needs to get us prepared in really big games, especially in the tough schedule. But we really need to be healthy, execute, and everyone needs to do their job going into the season. But when I look at the schedule, the ceiling that I see for this Packers team is 12-5. The reason why I'm not giving them a 13-plus win type season is because, one, health has been an issue. Consistency of all 3 phases has been an issue. And I don't know if we've done enough to at least enhance the pass rush. Pass rush is going to be key this upcoming season. We cannot have the pass rush that we had last year going to this type of schedule. If the pass rush isn't there, health is an issue, and inconsistency of all 3 phases, I do not see a 13-win type season. My ceiling for this team that I see of the schedule, based on what I see, I do like a ceiling of 12-5. The floor, I do see a floor of 9-8. The Packers have gone to back-to-back playoff appearances with Jordan Love at quarterback. This team is not a sub 500 team. I know this is a tough schedule, but at the minimum, at least a game over 500. So my floor would be 9-8. My sweet spot for this Packers team this season, I'll probably say this is probably gonna be a 10-7 season or 11-6 season. I might be gearing towards a little bit of the 10-7 side as opposed to 11-6, but the Packers have the talent to make noise. But overall, throughout the whole entire season, this season is going to test us as a team. It's going to test our general manager. It's going to test Matt LaFleur. And depending on how the season goes and how his quarterback play is, it could potentially tell us a lot about Jordan Love. This is year 3 as a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. It's going to tell us a lot about our general manager. And it's also going to tell us a lot about Matt LaFleur as a coach with this tough schedule and being mentally prepared and putting us in good hands in tough situations on a very tough schedule. And potentially Jordan Love. Jordan Love is a top 10 quarterback. If he's fully healthy and receivers are catching the ball, we got to see that elevation in Jordan Love and put himself in that MVP conversation. But overall, ceiling 12-5, floor 98. I think a sweet spot for this team is 10-7, 11-6. Let me know your thoughts on the schedule. Let me know on your floor and ceiling predictions. And overall, let me know what you think about how the season is going to go. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a video a like and subscribe for more Packers content. Thank you so much and catch you guys next time.